Oh, Romeo, Romeo. Wherefore art thou, Romeo?
Sad news to report in the world of entertainment. Actress Olivia Hussey, best known for her role in the 1968 version of William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, died today. The Argentine-born British performer had a career on the screen that spanned 6 decades. Her loved ones posted on her Instagram page saying she died peacefully at home. Olivia Hussey was 73.
Welcome to another episode of Marked Out Radio. I'm Sean.
And I'm Dana.
And I have to say, sometimes plans definitely change, and our plans for this episode changed pretty dramatically when we learned, what night was it?
Saturday night.
We learned Saturday night that Olivia Hussey died at the age of 73. And what's interesting is, if you've been listening to all the episodes of this show, we've kind of teased an Olivia Hussey episode since we did work with her pretty extensively at the end of 2022. And that was kind of our first big signing that we did. And so we were kind of planning to do a full episode on that. And, we always kind of talked about when will we do the Olivia episode. And I think her death forced our hand here.
Yeah, I'm not sure if anyone out there has ever listened to the Kevin Nash Click This podcast, but I think the Olivia episode was sort of our Bunkhouse Stampede episode, where we talked about and teased it for so long, but it was like one of those things where I was never quite sure when we'd do it, but news and life sort of necessitated that we do it now, so here we are.
And, just fair warning, we don't really want to speak ill of the dead. That's never our intention, but I firmly believe that in order to tell the story of that weekend properly, then we have to tell the truth. So everything we're going to tell in this episode is the truth. We're not shading over. We're not hiding anything. We're not making anyone seem better or worse than they really were. We're giving you exactly what happened, and we have extensive documentation and receipts to back it all up.
Absolutely right.
So before we get into that, if you're shopping for autographs, especially Olivia Hussey autographs, check out www.markedoutcollectibles.com or our eBay store at markedoutcollectibles. To contact us for any reason, please email markedoutcollectibles@gmail.com or join the Marked Out Collectibles official marketplace on Facebook. All links are in the show notes on Facebook and Substack. And once again, we're super excited to tell you about an indie wrestling show that we are going to be attending as vendors. It's going to be on January 26th, 2025. It's at the Mecca in Ridgefield Park, New Jersey. Doors are at 5 for a 5 p.m. bell time. There's actually a bunch of cool matches announced. Why don't you, since you just typed them out, the matches into our document here, why don't you talk about the matches?
Okay, we got WWE ID talent Marcus Mathers facing off with Trevor Lee, who is from NXT, and I think he did some main roster stuff as well. That match should be awesome. And you have a women's triple threat match. Zeta Steele versus Deonna Purrazzo versus Hyan.
Sounds really good. And actually, we did partner with PWJ to offer a free ringside ticket to the first Marked Out Radio listener who comments on the post for this episode. What do you think the magic word should be?
How about Hussey?
Hussey. Hussey. So for the very first fan who comments the word Hussey under this episode on Facebook, will receive one free ringside ticket to PWJ Damaged Goods on January 26th. So go ahead and make that comment if you want the free ticket.
You're going to have a better seat than even we're going to have. That's a hell of a deal.
So let's talk about Olivia Hussey. Now, what's really funny about this story is that we had not yet done a big money private signing at all. I think, in fact, we had really never done. We had just done the private signing with. We had negotiated the private signing with Tom Kenny a few weeks earlier, which combined was significantly smaller than this. And what we had also done, what else did we do that that time period. That was it, right? That was like our first thing was Tom Kenny, and this is like our first money deal, right?
We also had the horror signings in Maryland.
That's right.
Mark Burnham and Quinn Lord. But
So
still,
we did
both of those paled in comparison to this.
These were relatively small money deals, and see, we had got the idea to kind of get the ball rolling with doing these signings, and we booked Tom Kenny and Burnham and Quinn Lord, but this one was in the making for, I think, before all of those, because I started this very early, and so basically what had happened was I saw that on Chiller Theater's website that Olivia Hussey was announced as a guest, and I was kind of blown away because growing up, I remember watching the Romeo and Juliet movie when I was in English class when I was in 9th grade, and being particularly taken with that movie. And then in my day job, I am a teacher, an English teacher, and I have 9th grade frequently, and I show that movie to every 9th grader, the 1968 Zeffirelli Romeo and Juliet. And so I've showed that movie to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, kind of evangelized for that movie. I think it's an all-time amazing film. And so Olivia Hussey and that movie in particular, kind of, they're a significant part of my life, at least, in that little corner of it. And so when I saw that she was doing Chiller, I was like, oh man, that's super cool. And I floated the idea to Dana. I said, you know what? Olivia Hussey is doing Chiller. What do you think about doing a private with Olivia? I can reach out. And what was your reaction?
My first reaction was, who the hell is Olivia Hussey? My second question after that was, how much money can we make with this? How viable of a deal would this be to be, successful at?
And so we argued back and forth about this, and we weren't really sure, how much to offer, and whether this would even be ignored, or whether it would be taken seriously. And you were pretty against it at the beginning for a variety of reasons, but the big reason, well, there are two reasons. Number one, you didn't really know who it was, and so you didn't know how to market it. And number two, you didn't think there was any money in it. Is that fair?
Yeah. I figured, honestly, a movie that old, I figured most of the real fans of that movie would be dead. So how are they going to buy autographs? That was my number one stumbling block.
So we kicked around some ideas. We asked around, and I have to say, you floated this idea past the usual suspects, our usual marked out friends, and nobody was terribly enthusiastic about it.
No, not at all. I got a lot of no one was mean spirited, but a lot of people were like, I don't know how good that's going to go.
And for me, I saw dollar signs from the beginning. I thought this was a home run. I thought this was an incredible opportunity, especially because shortly after they announced Olivia, they also announced that Leonard Whiting, who played Romeo in that movie, was also available at Chiller. So I was kind of losing my mind at the possibility of getting dual items done for the two of them. And knowing that if you looked at the market, there just wasn't anything out there. There were a couple of bad headshots when Olivia would sign things through the mail. I think she might have done one Hollywood show years ago, and she did one Chiller back in 06 or 05, years and years ago, before anyone was getting anything of any quality done. And so we would have an opportunity to get high quality prints of the two of them. And so I was like, this is just I can't pass this up. And so I was doing my sleuthing, and I was a little bit of an ignoramus, and I didn't realize, how the process of booking at Chiller worked exactly. So I had no idea. And this is really true. I had no idea that she had been booked by Bob Katsopoulos to Chiller. I didn't have any, how would I know? They don't announce that. It's like it's announced, and we were such outsiders back then. We really had no inside track to getting people's contact information. I had no clue who she was booked through. And so I just looked on her website. I saw that she had a management contact on there. And so I wrote up a text with an offer, and I texted it to the management contact. And as fate would have it, the guy on the other end of that phone number is a guy by the name of Tony Marinozzi, who for a few months in 2022, Dana heard me just sort of talking about how frequently I was talking to Tony. I was talking to Tony significantly more frequently than my own parents and members of my family. There were weeks in that time period when I was talking to Tony basically every day on the phone. Which, Tony is an interesting guy, an entertaining guy, but it was definitely not something that I expected, given how many phone calls did we have regarding Tom Kenny or any of the other private signings that we did.
I think I had one. I had one with Tom Kenny's guy, just one, and the other ones were just like text messages, nothing more.
So you didn't have 1,700 phone calls with Tom Kenny's people.
I feel a little, but no.
So in any case, I had a lot of phone calls with Tony, and Tony's a really entertaining guy, a really interesting guy. And again, I was a little bit of a babe in the woods as far as I had never done a deal this big before. And so I made the offer. I said, I don't know who. I said, the offer was, whoever you have to pass this along to, I'm offering Olivia and Leonard $3,000 each for 100 pieces each. So we're a total of $6,000, 3 for Olivia, 3 for Leonard. And it was, I didn't realize Tony was able to broker that deal. I had no clue. I just said, forward that along to whoever you need to forward along to. And then I waited. And I didn't have to wait very long because it was right away, let's do this. And that's when the drama started. So again, we had done private signings before. So I was like, okay, you pay them the money, they sign the stuff, and you leave. And a lot more drama started opening up with this because I started hearing a song and a dance from Tony about how the flights for none of these people were arranged yet. And so now after having done this for a few years and being involved with a bunch of this stuff, I learned more about how this goes. But the long and the short of it is that all three. So it's Olivia, it's her husband David Isley, and it's Leonard Whiting. They needed first class airfare from where they were flying from. Now, but there was additional drama, of course. Olivia also wanted to bring her daughter India with her, so that was 3 first class tickets round trip from LA to New York. And then Leonard, coming from London, needed first class airfare for himself and his wife Lynn. And these were, according to all of the above, non-negotiable. And the thing is, Chiller does not pay first class airfare. They just won't. That's just a rule that they have. Now, do they make exceptions for certain high value talent? Maybe. I don't really know about that. What I will say is that from my understanding, as what Tony was telling me, was that they were not willing to pay first class airfare. So Tony kept saying to me, well, she's probably not going to make the show because they can't make the first class airfare happen. She's probably not going to make the show because she can't make the airfare happen. So I'm like, oh, well, I really want to get this signing done. What can we do about it? And so for the weeks intervening with me contacting Tony initially and Chiller happening in October was all kinds of stuff about, well, how can we am I going to fly to LA and do a private signing at her house? Am I going to send these things to London or fly to London and get Leonard to do these things? These were the conversations that were going on because he was pretty adamant that they were not going to come to Chiller because Chiller couldn't provide the flights. And then so at some point in there, and this is where it starts to get hazy because of the time that's gone by and also the incredible stress that's gone on. The long and the short of it is they asked me to cover the flights. Now, Dana, as someone who has done booking before, there is a very, very big difference between simply paying an appearance fee and also covering flights. Yes?
Oh, 100%. And let me just say, I don't know how good my poker hand was at this point, my poker face, I should say. But this is the point of the whole deal and negotiation that I was honestly just hoping and praying it would fail. At this point, I'm like, this is great. She's not coming. This is not going to happen. Because, to me, again, I was still going off the whole who is Olivia Hussey. And the idea that we're spending $6,000 on these two people, as much sense as it made, I was like, this is great. Was that clear? Did I hide that? Or was that obvious?
No, you were openly telling me you hoped that it failed. And and the problem is that, and this is really true of a lot of, we've learned these lessons. I was booking with my heart, not with my head. I really, really, really wanted this to happen. So I probably should have spiked it back then. I really should have, because asking for all these first class tickets, the tickets from London would have been like $8,000. The tickets from LA would have been like $10,000. These are tremendously expensive tickets. And I'm like, I don't feel good about laying out all this money unless we have some kind of arrangement. And this is not even at this point, I had learned about Bob through Tony, finally. This is not even my booking. I have no say with her at the table. So then we come to an agreement, and the agreement was this. And people might think that this was an insane thing for me to sign on to, but this is what I signed on to. So she would be officially Bob's guest at Chiller. He was the one, because he had the connection, he had the table at Chiller. And we still have no in at Chiller in that way. And I don't even know how to go about doing that, and I'm not sure I'm even interested in doing that. So she'd be Bob's guest at Chiller. I would pay out of pocket for first class airfare from LA to New Jersey, or it was Newark, and back for 3 people: David, Olivia, and India. And it had to be first class with a dog that was allowed to fly. Let me tell you something. So I learned, and you may not know this, and this is something that I learned doing a deep dive on this. The FAA only allows 1 dog per first class cabin. So if there was a first class flight available and some other person, some other lovely citizen had a dog with them, you can't book a seat with a dog in that section. It violates FAA regulations. So I had to find a flight that didn't yet have a dog. And let me tell you, going out of LA, a lot of these people fly with dogs. Okay, so this was not an easy thing, and it was that in and of itself was stressful. And I remember being on the phone with someone from the airline when they were explaining this to me, and they were like making fun and like, listen, it's LA, everyone rides with a dog, and they were actually poking fun of the absurdity of this. And so that was something that was harrowing for me at the time, was finding these tickets. But I was able to find tickets for Olivia, David, and India. I had to give them an advance of $5,000 to get on the airplane. In addition, Tony, and I will say this is true, Tony gave them a $5,000 advance to get on the airplane. Now, one of the things one of the terms of the deal was that Olivia had a downside guarantee of $20,000. Okay, so she had to make 20 before we start getting reimbursed. Now let me clarify what that means. So the 5K was that was a deposit, so that's fully reimbursable. That's the first 5K comes out, right, towards the 20. Tony's 5K goes towards the 20. Then they make the table money. Once the table money is made, then the flight money starts getting reimbursed. Okay, if that makes sense. On the other end of it, Leonard, even though Leonard's still alive, we'll just give you the Leonard side of the deal. Leonard and his wife would front the money for their own flight. We would handle transportation for Leonard from the hotel to the Chiller and back, and we would pay Leonard $3,000. Olivia, I would also have to pay of the money's $3,000 for the signing. So I would recoup my flight money plus whatever else on top. If there was a profit made, that was something to work out between Olivia and Bob. So the idea was we were paying all of the expenses, upfront expenses, and they were getting on an airplane. So you thought I was friggin' crazy for agreeing to all this.
Yeah, I mean, and knowing how the story ends, hearing it now as you're telling it from the beginning, I still think it sounds really, really insane. Like it really is twists and turns, and that you're counting on making this money back playing by someone else's playbook, basically, because like you weren't able to dictate table prices and policy and all that. Yeah,
the only thing I had, and this was something that we talked about, the only thing I had was control of the plane tickets, and that was a nuclear option that I was not necessarily opposed to deploying if I had to.
Explain what you mean by that.
So this is something that we joke about when we do our bookings for someone with a flight. one of the things that if you're buying someone a flight, you have control of the plane tickets. You decide, for example, if those tickets need to be canceled. If you paid them with your credit card, you can cancel them if you need to. And so if a person, it's never come to this, but I have absolutely discussed with you the possibility that if someone does not fulfill their obligations at a signing, you just say, listen, you do what you're paid to do. I'm canceling your flight home. And then sure, I won't get what I paid for, but you're going to have to eat a plane ticket then anyway. And that's something that I was literally going to deploy to them. There was a time in this story coming up very shortly where we were very, very close to deploying the nuclear option of canceling their flights home.
Yeah, I thought it was coming at one point for sure.
So we covered we were covering all the expenses on Olivia. Leonard was covering his own expenses, so that worked out. And so everything is locked in and we're ready to roll. I was not thrilled about the $5,000 upfront deposit, since that was not something that was agreed to in the initial terms of the deal. But and especially since Tony had been telling me I'm putting up 5,000, I'm putting up 5,000, and I didn't necessarily know whether to believe him. He was telling me that, but I never met the guy. I was on the phone with him, but I didn't know whether he was telling me the truth. But I got the sense that he was, and I was leading with my heart, not my brain. And so I just rolled with it. And, in retrospect, it was very foolish to do. Tony could have been taking me for a ride, but at the end of the day, and I was really, really scared they wouldn't get on the airplane. And so I remember that Thursday, all morning, frantically checking to make sure that they had boarded the plane. I kept refreshing the app with their travel itinerary to see they boarded the plane. And when they did, I had sort of exhaled a little bit. So our plan was to the Thursday. So Chiller is always Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We were going to go in that Thursday night because they were landing. They were taking a red eye. They were landing early on Thursday. I want to say noonish, something like that.
Yeah, it was very early. I remember.
It was very early. So the plan was we were going to roll in at about 7:00 and do our signing at the hotel Thursday night before the convention even started. That was the plan. We were going to get our 100 from Olivia on Thursday night. Leonard was flying in much later, and so I would get them from Leonard Friday morning, and that was the plan. And so we had arranged for JSA to send a witness. I really wanted witness authentication for these because I had this feeling this was going to be a big deal. And you know what? It was a pretty big deal. We did a very, very decent number of pre-orders for this, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Honestly, looking back now after she passed, to going through the photos, I actually forgot how many pre-orders it was until I saw all the pictures, and I thought, "Holy crap, that was a successful little deal."
Yes, I mean our goal was we wanted to make back as much of the investment via pre-order before the signing even happened. So we got a bunch of pre-orders. So there was some money in our pocket, that wasn't granted. The money we made from pre-orders was nowhere near with the catastrophe if she didn't get on the plane. If she didn't get on the plane, I would not be doing this podcast right now. I would probably be out of this hobby, to be honest. I was in that much of a headspace. So making a long story short, we arranged with JSA to be there. We drive. You should explain, because I don't know if I can, what the traffic was like getting from us to the Chiller Hotel that Thursday afternoon and evening.
It was awful. Imagine like 7 or 8 presidential motorcades like all in one. It was just crawling, slow, and of course we had somewhere to be with a potentially prickly Hollywood diva from decades past. And we didn't want to be late. So we were really sweating every time the GPS would jump and we'd gain some time. It was like, we were freaking out a little bit.
I want to say we had to be there for 7:00. The time was at 7 or 7:30. And we left my house like 3:00 to get to Chiller. Now, on a good day, the Chiller Hotel was an hour to an hour and a half from my house. Okay?
Exactly.
We barely roll in on time. Okay? So we get into the hotel. We have all our crates and our tables and our, signage and our prints, and we're excited and we're feeling pretty good. We get in there, and Jason from JSA is waiting for me. Who I actually I can't thank Jason enough for everything, because he was actually very emotionally supportive during what happened next. 'Cause it was a wild one. So we get there Thursday night, and we get into the hotel. Jason's in the lobby, and I call Tony, and I say, okay, Tony was flying in Friday. He wasn't even there. So can you, call their room or text them or give me their number or whatever? And have them come tell me where to go so I can set up. We'll get this show on the road. And there was this waiting and waiting and waiting. And finally, Tony gave me David Isley's phone number, Olivia's husband. And I called David's. Well, I texted David's phone, and then I called David's phone. And when I called David's phone, he answered and then disconnected and wouldn't speak to me. And so now, me. So how we know each other since what, 07 or something like that, 08?
Yeah,
long time.
07, I think.
You've seen me get angry very, very infrequently over those years. Very little gets me upset in life, in the world. If I'm being honest, very little in the world gets me upset. I never really show if I don't really allow myself to get very angry.
Prior to this, it was really just the horses in Philadelphia. That was honestly it.
He's referring to a time when we were driving through Philadelphia in bumper-to-bumper traffic, and we were obstructed by horses crossing the road, and I just lost my mind in traffic. Traffic is one of those things that can get to me. So that did happen. That happened like in 08 or 09. It was like 09, I think, that thing.
Yeah.
So this is years later. I was still a reasonably young man in 09. How angry did I get in the lobby of Chiller?
Listen, I thought we might be doing the Olivia death episode before there was a podcast. That's how angry you were. I figured, oh no, that this is bad. We already had the prince and all the other money, but yeah, you were pissed.
As a person, I have very rarely in my life been that disrespected, and that was a thing when. So Tony then texted me. David says she's too tired. They might do it tomorrow. That was the text. David says they're too tired. They might do it tomorrow. And what was I going to do? So Jason from JSA looked at me, and he, offered a little bit of emotional support because I was very, very upset. And the answer was we had to turn around and drive home. Now, one of the reasons why this is so significant is you are still brand new at your job. So Friday morning, I was going to take off from work to come into Chiller and help set things up and do the signing with Leonard, or at least prep for the signing with Leonard. You were unable to come in on Friday.
No,
so
I wasn't.
We budgeted our time so that the signing would occur Thursday night. And when it didn't, that messed up our entire timeline, because that would mean that I would have to do the Olivia signing by myself. And I wasn't even sure when it was going to take place. Furthermore, Jason from JSA told me that he was not available on Friday. And so from every angle, I was distraught. And
here's one more angle. This was the absolute first time we really reached out to JSA as a company and not just like as people doing whatever we were doing individually. And to have the JSA rep standing in the lobby with you for a signing that you're just brushed away like garbage and it doesn't happen.
It was humiliating.
Yeah.
It was humiliating.
I felt like a jabroni at that point.
It was humiliating, and it was done in the most disrespectful way possible. And so, that will be true of any dealing that I've had with David Isley. That he is immensely, immensely disrespectful for really no reason, and that's a whole other thing. So we drove home. At some point, Tony gets on the phone with me, because he neglected to call me when I was at the hotel, probably because I'm actually glad he didn't call me when I was in the lobby of the hotel, because then I would have gotten thrown out of the hotel, because I would have been screaming like a maniac on the phone. Again, I don't. It's hard, for people who don't know me. I don't raise my voice. I don't scream. I don't show anger. That is not a thing that I do. I'm very conscious of that. So when I was driving home and Tony finally called, I was very, very mad, and I was really yelling into the phone and talking about all these things, how I had followed every one of their demands. They kept changing their demands, and those demands kept being met, and then to be treated with such brazen hostility and disrespect for no reason. They were treated better than they deserved, to be honest, that, I was really mad. I was really, really, really mad. And Tony, to his credit, tried to calm me down. He said, "Don't worry, it'll get done this weekend. Don't worry. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. It'll happen. And we'll try to get it done tomorrow. We'll try." And I kept it. There's a few things that in life that just really bother me. And one of the things that really bothers me, and when someone says we'll try to do something, maybe it's my inner Yoda, I don't know, but this is not one of those things where you try. You just do it. There's no trying. You try to climb a mountain. You don't try to do this. It just happens. There's no trying. You just agree to do it and then do it. That's the end of it. And this
it's one of those things, yeah. It's like there's no crying in baseball. There's no trying in promoting and making a deal. Like,
and when someone says that, when they use that language, "Oh, we'll try," to me, that's someone shining me up. That's someone putting me on. They're trying to handle me, and I am very, very sensitive to the idea of being handled. Don't try and handle me. Most people who talk, you're not smarter than me. You're gonna manipulate. I know what you're doing. It's the question of whether I'll acquiesce to it or not. And unfortunately, in this situation, what I wish Tony would have said is, "Look, they got you over a barrel. They have your money. So, and then we'll have to, deal with them accordingly." And that I would have at least had respect. But this whole, "Oh, we'll try." And he kept trying to say they have to think, and he's actually right about this. Very, very intelligent guy, Tony. And one of the things he said to me over and over again is they have to feel like they're winning. If they feel like they're winning, they'll be nice to you and do whatever you want. But they have to feel like they're winning, like they're getting over on you, basically. If they feel like they're getting over on you, even if they're not, they have to just feel like it, they're winning. So I thought that's a ridiculous way for a person to conduct themselves. I don't know about you. I just can't wrap my head around that. But I
kind of like hearing you say that back. I haven't heard that since, in years now. Honestly, if you think about it as like a car salesman, I think probably successful car salesman, the person buying the car from them feels like they're winning. I think salesmanship of any kind is sort of built around making the person feel like they're winning. So, I mean, on a basic psychology level, I guess it makes perfect sense. But it's a weird way. As adults that are like 70 years old, 60-something years old, I mean, I would hope you would evolve a little beyond that you don't feel like you have to win everything. You made the deal, you agreed to the terms.
Because they had agreed to the terms already. Yes,
exactly.
They agreed already.
You won. You won when you agreed. That's what it was the deal you wanted to do.
And so it was really... And he was saying these things to me, and I was able to calm down. And I remember walking in the door when I got home that Thursday night, and I must have had a look on my face because I remember going into everyone I knew was texting me, "How did it go? How did it go? How did it go?" And I remember, like, what do I say? I recall not even answering anyone. What am I? But I was so mad, and I knew that because for me to try and explain, "Oh, we'll try to get it done tomorrow," I would just get mad again. So I remember being so tired and so drained. I had driven probably 5.5 or 6 hours that day for nothing. It's the kind of thing where if you drive 5.5 or 6 hours and you get something out of it, fine, your adrenaline can push you through. If you're driving 5.5 hours, you get nothing. It's a special kind of hell. And so I remember being absolutely just dead and knowing and dreading that now I was going to have to negotiate with these people on Friday and deal with them again. And this time, I would at least have Tony there with me. So Friday comes. I didn't even tell you. I forgot this other piece. In addition, Tony had told me, Leonard and his wife had arrived in the States. They were at their hotel in the U.S. They wanted to know if I can give them their $3,000 up front. Fine. And because they're in their 70s, they didn't know how to accept electronic payment, and they wanted cash because they wanted to go out in New York City. So I had to drop off $3,000 in cash at their hotel. And the funny thing was, at this point, I was already like, you know what? In for a penny, in for a pound, right? Cheerio. Because at this point, I got to give them their money. I'm not going to risk pissing them off because they were to be honest, they were lovely.
I mean,
Leonard and yeah, go ahead.
That was the least of your problems. I mean, at worst, you would have had a whole stack of Romeo and Juliet stuff signed by Leonard. Like, that was never really a concern.
Right.
On the secondary level, that would have been a concern. But
right. And I have to say, from beginning to end, Leonard and his wife were absolutely delightful. And I did them extra favors, and because they were just very kind and also very appreciative because they understood what we were doing for them, and we were treating them with dignity and respect, and they treated us with dignity and respect and kindness in kind. The same absolutely cannot be said for David and Olivia. And so anyhow, we gave Leonard his cash. Then Friday morning comes along, and I drive in without you. So now I'm alone, and I leave the stuff in the crates in the car because I'm not sure when this is going to take place. So I get to the hotel at 12, okay? And as soon as I walk in, I see Olivia and David, her husband, and her damn dog. It's funny. All this is coming back to me. I'm getting mad. Sitting in the lobby, just sitting there. And I didn't want to say anything, or I wasn't even gonna. What was I gonna do? Walk up to them like I was the guy. I didn't say anything. I just left them there, and I just wanted to wait until, because number one, I had to get us bracelets for Chiller, and I also had to wait for Tony to come. So Bob gets us our bracelets for Chiller. Tony comes, and Tony's like, well, as soon as I met Tony, a lot of things fell into place. Tony's a very fast-talking guy. You know, I've met people like him before. He's very, very intelligent, very charming. But I also knew that you really had to be careful with what Tony was selling you. And I realized that, okay, I think I got taken for a little bit of a ride here, but I'm gonna trust in Tony to talk these people into doing what's right. And so, because I didn't want to come off, I wanted to let Tony handle the negotiations. So I felt like if I were to come on too strong, or I didn't know them, but he did, and hopefully he would be able to work things out. And so I'm standing in the lobby waiting, and Tony's like, let me talk to Olivia and I'll see what's up. And then he comes to me, and this is within 30 minutes of getting there, so pretty quickly. He says, they have a few minutes now. Are you ready to go? And I said, well, I have to get my stuff from the car. He's like, okay, meet me in whatever room. And so I wish you could have seen this to film this, because I'm sure if you put this to music, it would have gone viral forget about it. This was a blur. I raced out to the car. I stacked all of the items up to the ceiling as high as I could go. All these crates, all our pens, all of our tablecloth, all of our stuff. And I raced into the hotel, raced up the stairs, raced into the room. And before I get in there, Tony says, and I'm not joking, I'll talk to David and distract him. You do what you have to do with Olivia. And he goes, make sure just to charm her and win her over. And I'm like, great. Now this is a con, right?
Hey, no pressure.
This is not a business transaction. It's a con. I'm thinking to myself, why is he talking to David to distract him? We paid for this. We paid him thousands of dollars. Why is he talking to David? And what is the need for it? You know, just trust me. And so I went there, and in spite of myself, because I am a personality type where when something like this happens, I have 100 questions that need to be answered. But I swallowed them all. And I don't know how I quite did it. I swallowed them. And I said, you know what? Screw it. And first thing I did was I get out the pre-orders. And we had taken, because part of the agreement that she had agreed to do personalizations and inscriptions. That was part of the agreement, okay, for the mail-ins. And so I get the mail-ins out first, and she takes a couple look at the mail-ins. She's like, oh, I don't want to sign all these. And I'm like, what? Why not? Oh, I thought they were just going to be regular pictures of my face. And I'm like, they're going to be all kinds of things. What's the difference? You're just signing them. Well, I don't like the way they look on these. And I'm like, I don't even know what I'm going to do with myself. And she's fighting me on every single one. She does the personalizations. She refuses to do any of the inscriptions. Not even character names, nothing. She refuses to do them. And furthermore, she refuses to change pens. She only wants to use the pens that she wants to use. So some people had sent in specific pen requests. My heart is beating out of my chest because she's being overtly hostile to me. And I see Tony yapping away at David. And I'm trying to. So at some point, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go all in. And so I start carrying on about how I show her movie to ninth graders every year, that I'm a teacher, and I fell in love with the movie when I was 14, blah, 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 blah. These shots are beautiful. I am laying it on thick. And I'm going to be honest with you, Dana, you've never seen me act like this before, and you probably never will. You hopefully never will. see me act like this. I was carrying on in a way that is unbecoming of an adult. Let's put it like that. I was laying it on, and slowly but surely, wouldn't you know, she started to thaw out a little bit, and I was able to switch her over to a silver deco on most items. Thank God. Some of them she's still like, oh, silver one doesn't look right on this one. I have to use, and I, you know what? Fine. She had aesthetic preferences for certain pens. I wasn't going to argue, but I remember when she was pitching a fit at the beginning, I had one of our customers sent in a mask of Pennywise from the TV show, and I hadn't even he wanted it signed in red paint, and I hadn't even given it to him. To Olivia, sorry, because I knew at that point I was afraid she was going to shut the signing down, so I had held it back. So after she warmed up to me and we were near the end, I gave her the thing, and she started laughing and held it up. And I'm like, all right, good. Now I got her. And so I was able to get a couple of other things done. I was able to get a couple of character names and a couple of things. I had these custom Funko Pops made of Olivia and Leonard, and I got her to sign those for me in a white paint because I wanted a pen switch. And so she started cooperating at the end. And I'm not gonna lie, I ended up getting what was the count, like 120, 130 out of her, something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna lie about it. I mean, my plan was when I was pissed off, I was gonna squeeze every extra I could, and I was gonna keep throwing stuff at her until she passed out or dropped the pen or left. Okay. And so I literally got everything done except for a stack of like 10 or 15 that I had just forgotten about because I was there by myself, sweating bullets, having a panic attack. Okay. So I got everything done somehow, except those last 15, which I forgot about that part. It was like 15 more, 10 more, something I just forgot about. And so, but whatever. At the end of the day, I still got over 100. I was good. But we weren't good because, truthfully, we still had to make up the airfare, the deposit. We needed to get Olivia to 20K at the table for me to get my money back. I got the stuff signed, but I didn't get my money back yet.
Plus, on a smaller level, we charged. Fred, I forget the exact price we charged, but we charged extra for the inscriptions. So with the inscriptions undone, that was going to end up being money you had to refund, which no one wants to refund money in this game.
I was not looking forward to refunding money for inscriptions that did not get done. So we put those to the side that were signed but not inscribed, and I'm like, all right, you know what? We'll figure it out over the weekend because now she knows and likes us, or me anyway, in the theory. And so you then finally arrived Friday evening. And the thing was, see, it was never an arrangement with Bob that we were going to work the tables. But my thought process was we had so much money invested in this that I was never going to be more than 5 feet away from the cash box on the off chance that someone took off with the money. It's my money in there. The first, 10,000, whatever, 12,000, whatever it was my money. I needed to get it. So we ended up.
You were not going to be sitting at home relaxing, saying, a few days away from getting my PayPal transaction going through.
Absolutely not. And so we were there, and you came in Friday night, and we ended up. This refresh my memory because now with the fog of war, I'm hazy. Did we do Leonard? We also did Leonard Friday after you got. Did I do Leonard without you or with you?
I didn't do any of that stuff. I just did the stuff on Sunday, which we'll get to.
So I did Leonard after, but Leonard was a lot more chill. That's right. Before even Friday night, I did Leonard after Olivia. Leonard was very, very easy. His wife was in there. She was helping out. There was no distracting needed. Leonard, it couldn't have been more different. Leonard did anything I asked him to do. Incredibly, incredibly gracious, incredibly nice, thanking me the whole time that I was there. And so that was done. So then it came time for Chiller. And so when you rolled in, you were doubting this whole thing. So why don't you say what the lines were like on Friday?
Her lines she had the biggest lines in the entire building. And I definitely was doubting it. I like we said, the like marked out people we speak to regularly, they told me, I don't know. I reached out to promoters I knew to get their feedback. They had the same feelings I had. You were like the only one, and I guess Bob, that had any real faith in this. And I was pleasantly surprised. She was packing the line.
It's funny because there were other people who were I mean, for political reasons were announced as the headliners of that show. She was not marketed as the headliner of that show. She was absolutely the top draw of the show. It was not even close. Would you say that's true?
I mean, granted, I was only walking around when I was walking around, so I can't be sure, but from what I saw, I think so.
The line didn't stop the entire night on Friday. It was a non-stop line the entire night on Friday, the whole time. And so we're working the line. We're helping people out. Now, there's a humorous aside here in that we had told people about some of this part of the saga. And one of the things we had told people was that, we had paid for a flight for India. So there were a few diehard marked out fans who were trying to meet India Isley. And one of the things that what was supposed to happen was India Isley was supposed to come down and work the table to raise some extra money to help pay for the flight. Friday night, Olivia does not come down at all.
You mean India?
I said Olivia?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. India does not come down Friday night at all. So I'm like, are you kidding me? This young lady sat in her hotel room doing nothing the entire night, refusing to come down. But that doesn't mean every freaking 15 minutes a certain marked out member. Are we saying who it was?
Say it.
That was Jerry. So Jerry was coming around Friday and Saturday asking about India to the point where I was like, Jerry, I am always very, very nice. I love Jerry. He's a very sweet guy. I'm like, Jerry, please stop asking me. You're going to make me upset. I said it like that. Please stop asking me. I'm not going to do my Jerry impression, but he kept saying, do you know where India is? Do you know where India is? And I'm like,
where's India? Oh.
She was still in her room, Jerry. She hasn't come out. So I'm like, do you want to go up there and knock, Jerry? He said, can I? I'm like, no. Interestingly, something that surprised me was that the professional photo op for I thought we were going to make some real money off the professional dual photo op for Olivia and Leonard. We didn't do that great.
I was surprised too.
We only sold a handful, and it was very upsetting because the number of people who came up and were like, can I get a shot with both of them at the table? That I wanted to say no, because you could have paid for the damn professional photo op, which would have been helpful. And the problem was this. I really felt bad. Leonard had very, 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 very limited mobility. His knees are shot. He's actually a really tall guy. You wouldn't know unless you stood next to him. He's a really tall guy, and his knees were shot. He had a really hard time standing up and sitting down. But the truth of it was, he wasn't doing great. Leonard did all right for the weekend. I think he made around $9,000 for the weekend. So he couldn't stand up and sit down very easily. And then people kept asking, "Can you get up and do a dual photo with Olivia?" And I could see he didn't. He really was not comfortable doing it. But people were paying, and so he would. So I really was frustrated that people didn't do the pro ops. They didn't do great. I'm not sure why, but it happened. I wish, and it really was annoying because there are people who we know pretty well who we were like, we were really pushing the pro ops. It would make our lives very easy, and those people were insisting on getting dual table ops with them, and it really was frustrating because. Again, Leonard was physically in a lot of pain, and it really ground up the works on that. So this is a kind of a funny thing that you were a part of it too. Each night at the end, so Friday night we get in the room, and the way you described it to me before was funny. So you should describe it again like that. How we had to go in the hotel room to count the money.
Yeah, well, after each night's chiller, we would go up to the hotel room, and it felt like a scene out of Blow or one of those like drug movies where you're just sitting around counting all the cash. And
it was huge piles of cash. Piles of cash.
And you have everyone sort of trusted each other, but you could tell not exactly because everyone was like counting over shoulders, and everyone was watching their ass, making sure that their investment was being protected.
And so we got the flights mostly paid out the first night, I would say. The flights are mostly covered the first night. A decent chunk of them were covered the first night. And then so Saturday comes in, and we drive into Chiller Saturday. And how were the lines Saturday?
Even better than the lines Friday.
It was nonstop. It brought me a weird sense of joy and or vindication because all these people, you included, I'm not going to lie, I'm going to be honest, all these people doubting this deal. And I saw the nonstop lines for Olivia on Saturday. And then I looked over and I'm going to name it. Screw it. The headliner for that show was Bolo Young, wasn't it?
It seemed like it, yeah, as far as how they were marketing it.
He was the headliner, and Olivia's line dwarfed Bolo Young's line. Dwarfed.
Yeah.
Not even.
And let me just throw out there, because I feel like we're being honest, but at the same time, we're not saying a lot of nice things about Olivia. So let me just say my personal reaction. I was blown away by how she did not take many breaks, because she is the type of person, or was the type of person, that fed on the praise and the worship of her fans. And her fans were kind of a unique bunch that were very passionate. And
you're right. You're 100%.
Yeah, she hardly ever tagged out. I thought, oh, God, if she comes down to the table, she's going to take, she'll be spending 50% of the time away from the table. She was a trooper because she loved all the attention.
So that is absolutely true. She was when it came time to be in front of the fans, she was a total pro. She did all the inscription requests. She did all the she wouldn't, interestingly, and some people got mad, she wouldn't take off her hat and sunglasses. And she said it was because of the light with her eyes or something. I don't know what the deal was with that.
Remember class coming up to us freaking out? Oh, she won't take off the hat and the glasses.
Yeah, people
was all worked up.
People were pretty mad, and people we know were pretty mad that she wouldn't take off the hat and sunglasses. But it's like, what do you want me to do? You start yelling at her and arguing with her there at Chiller. She was swapping pens. She was writing out inscriptions. She was going through fans like crazy. There were certain table prints that had sold out. She was a machine. She was a machine for Chiller. So we get to Saturday night. We count out the money, and at this point, I am running on fumes Saturday night. And this is an important thing. So I should have received the rest of my money Saturday night.
Correct.
But then David says, well, then why is she even going to come out tomorrow? I'm like, excuse me? Well, what's her, if she is guaranteed her 20K and nothing more, then what, and we already made the 20K for her and the rest of it's going to go to you. What's the point what's the point of her signing? And I was like, because that's what she agreed to do. He goes, no, but this is Tony, his whole thing. They need to feel like they're winning. So honestly, kudos to Bob, because Bob just didn't take any money for this booking. Bob made nothing on this booking, which blows me away that he was so generous and so kind with us, because he knew how much time and energy and money I had put into this. And so basically David tried to renegotiate the deal so that they would get more money, that they would get some of the Sunday take, that I wouldn't get the last bits of my take until Sunday. And so what am I going to say? I wanted her to come down on Sunday, right? I still had to
didn't come down on Sunday. That was the best case scenario. Really, you had to get her down.
I had to get her down. On Sunday because I also needed her to do the inscriptions. I couldn't piss her off. We had inscriptions. I didn't want to do $1,000 worth of refunds in addition to whatever else we had. So anyway, fine. We allow the deal to get restructured slightly. It's fine. She comes down. Sunday, the lines are a lot slower, but that's Chiller on a Sunday. Chiller on a Sunday is kind of dead because a lot of the guests pack up and leave. And so she did some business in the morning, but at some point there was a lull, and we brought all of the inscribed. Thankfully, you had all the inscribed stuff, all the stuff that needed inscriptions. You had to get an envelope or something, right?
Yeah.
I forget. We had it in the envelope or something.
Yeah, we had it in the envelope. And the funny thing with this was, driving in, we were discussing our various options. The one option was, offering her money on top of the money she already was given to do this as, part of the deal to just get them done. Figuring if we gave her some extra cash, it would beat giving all that money back to the customers. But then we figured, I think it was you that initially said it, why don't you take a swing at the inscription, since I already tried on Friday.
And also, you were the one. So I was doing line management. You were the one taking all the photos. You were the camera holder taking people's photo ops. So that's it. So she was interacting with you during the show Chiller a lot more than me. I was really running for Leonard, and I was keeping track of Leonard and keeping Leonard's stuff going. So yeah, she ended up doing them all.
Yeah.
And nicely too.
Yeah, the whole thing was funny because I remember I like approached her. It was a lull in the line, so I went up to her with the stuff. And at first, which is like a little message for all the people out there that think that when you meet these celebrities that you are their friends and you have these moments that matter to them with the gifts that you give them. She looked at me after 3 days of taking her pictures for hours and hours and hours and didn't even realize who I was at first. Then finally, she's like, "Oh, you're that nice young man that's been taking my photos all weekend." And
you were around her for 20 hours. So it's an insane amount of time.
Finally, it clicked. And then I was explaining to her, I was doing my attempt at what you were doing on Friday. And I said to her, I said, you see these fans that come here and they care so much to have this stuff right. I said, these customers that we have that ordered these prints, this stuff is so important to them. They can't be here because of where they live. This is going to go in a place of like esteem in their house. And it's going to disappoint them so much if you don't do what they, requested. And then she's like, "Oh, okay." And I started giving them to her. And I remember we had one quote. I can't recall what it was. It must have been from Black Christmas. But there was one quote, much like the It mask, where I kept it to the end. Because I'm like, when she sees this quote, she's going to be like, "Get the hell out of here." And I think I got her to do it just on the sympathy.
It was don't pick up the phone. Or don't answer the phone or something like that, right?
Yeah, that's actually my memory. I thought it was worse than that. That's actually not.
No, it was don't pick up the phone. Jess, Black Christmas, 1970, whatever. It was a bunch of stuff like that.
Yeah, but she did it. She did them all. We didn't have to pay her extra money. We didn't have to refund anyone money. Complete success, and she got a little gift for the plane. You want to tell the listeners what that was?
Well, there's more to there's more to it than that. So the story's not over yet. So in addition, those last 15 or 10 or whatever it was that I had forgotten, Tony had agreed that he was going to ask Olivia to sign them as favors to him that he could give out to prospective like clients or whatever as like gifts, and he was really just getting done for me. He did me a solid, and he took them and she signed them, and then we got them. So we got a bunch of prints done. From Tony or via Tony for her, and that was done. So thanks to Tony for that, and that took care of those things. So long story short, it was what was the gift for the plane? Oh, the pen.
Yeah, the Deco. She knew a good Deco silver when she saw it or smelled it.
So while I forgot. So it was while she was doing the inscriptions, right?
Yeah, she kept remarking how this smells so good. This smells so good. And then at the end of the whole thing, she's like, "You think I can take this back with me, to L.A.?" And am I going to say no? Of course, Olivia, take it.
I mean, granted, giving up a Deco Silver kind of stings because Deco Silvers are our favorite pens on earth.
I mean, yeah, that pen, despite signing hundreds of autographs, had thousands more left in it because those things never die.
So Olivia did get a Deco Silver that she was sniffing, and until Lord knows. So all in all, we went back to the room one last time. We paid out. I think we ended up down a little bit. I still owed a little bit from the flight.
You actually went back to the room alone that day because I was doing our Tom Atkins private signing at that point. While I was starting that while you were going up to the room to count the cash.
I was so tired I couldn't even argue with them. All I know is that I was down a little bit, but I knew that with sales we were going to make it up, and we have long since made it up. It's not even an issue. So we're down a little bit, and we by my estimation, we came out of there with inventory that is well into the 5 figures in value. We've already sold thousands of that inventory, so we will continue selling more. So what's really funny is during this whole weekend, there's more to the story. So during the whole weekend, I was chatting a lot with Tony's wife and Tony and Leonard's wife, Lynn. And Lynn is this very vibrant, very funny woman. And she loved me for some reason. I mean, she was probably working me, to be honest. They were all kayfabing me to some degree. And I was like, all right, whatever. But they're nice to me, so I didn't care. And they really were like, oh, you're so good at this. You're so good at these promotions. We want you to promote why don't we take Leonard and Olivia want to do like a road show. We want you to do, their like meet and greets and merch for the show. And they wanted me to build a website, a retail site for them to sell products through. And I'm like, listen, I have no experience in this area whatsoever. These retail channels, distribution. I'm like, I have no experience doing this. I'm not going to be able to do this to a cost that's going to be worthwhile for you. My costs, because I have no channels in this industry, my costs are going to be through the roof. And what they were really trying to get me to do was operate on a model where I would pay them a fixed cost for things and then sell them and try and make my own margin on it, which was never going to happen. That was never in a million years going to happen, because we had to sell through our current inventory, but before I was going to start paying them for more. So that was just a funny thing. How they wanted me to do this, and Tony really was like, I promise you, we're gonna get this. You're gonna get this off the ground. You're gonna make big money with them. You're gonna see. And he kept saying like, we have big things coming up for these two. There are big things coming up for them. They're gonna be in the news. You're gonna see there's gonna be big things coming up. But he made it sound positive. He made it sound like it was something that we were gonna look forward to. Lo and behold, what was the big news that Tony was alluding to?
All Romeo and Juliet were trying to hitch their wagon onto the Me Too train and sue whatever studio it was that put out Romeo
Paramount.
and Juliet.
They sued Paramount.
They
sued Paramount. I mean, it was the whole thing was an absolute disaster. It put a stain on their reputations. But the thing that it did for me that was most devastating was I was like, these people wanted me to get involved with them on a professional level, start building websites and doing retail channels. Imagine if I had invested money and time and energy into this, only for them to just blow up their Hollywood contacts on purpose. They were like trying to lure me into this web where they would be screwing me out of money. So thank God I had the wherewithal to not get involved with them after the fact. But it was funny because when I never answered any of Tony's calls after that event, he had tried to call me multiple times. He tried reaching out multiple times. I never spoke to him again. And I know some people might say it's unprofessional or whatever, but that whole thing left such a bad taste in my mouth. And I understand why he couldn't tell me that they were going to sue Paramount. In theory, it's private information. It's, it's not privileged because he's not a lawyer, but he's obliged to keep their privacy. I understand that, but don't try and rope me in to their world, knowing that they're going to blow up that world in a couple of months. And it was only a couple months later. And to this day, it leaves a very bad taste in my mouth. It makes the whole affair rather distasteful, knowing that occurred. And
I don't even get what their end goal was, because you're not going to do a tour with a lawsuit hanging over overhead. You're also not going to.
They were going to do a Romeo and Juliet tour without the support of Paramount. What are you, crazy?
Exactly, and you're not going to really have a thriving online storefront selling. Victims don't normally sell the trinkets of their crimes, and their victimhood. It made no sense on any level.
How would they expect me to sell kiss photos of Romeo and Juliet when they were suing over that? It makes no sense. I think what they wanted, I really think what they wanted was for a retail channel to get established. They'd make some money off of what the publicity came out, and I would just be another, basically someone to get steamrolled because they would have extracted a couple of $1,000s. I think it was a 2-bit hustle. That's what I think. That never really got off the ground because there was never a ton of thought put into it. It was always whatever nickels they could extract. There was never any real money in there. So that was one of those things that it was such a bummer. It really put a damper on the whole thing. And I can't stress enough how, even though at the end of the day, Olivia took care of her obligations, it was a real struggle to get her to do so. And her husband, I know people would say, and Bob was big on this. He would say, oh, David is the heavy. And, and Tony also, Tony would say, David is the heavy. Olivia's lovely. David's the heavy. But listen, you and I have said this many times. There's only a heavy if the person being protected wants there to be a heavy.
Yeah.
That's how
there was there was no heavy with Lynn and Leonard because
No.
they were two lovely people who were appreciative that they got to come over here and see their family, and they wanted to do business right by us because they were normal people that appreciated, honesty, and no heavies needed.
Right. And that's the bottom line. So it's very hard because I loved the Olivia on screen. I loved the idea of Olivia. In practice, working with Olivia was challenging. It really was, and it's pretty much because I try to conduct myself with basic human decency, and some people just do not. Now, what's funny is Tony made a bunch of excuses that whole weekend why they were acting like this. One of the things he said was, they've been burned by so many people, they've been screwed by so many people that they're like, caged animals where they kind of just lash out and assume everyone is trying to screw them. That might be true. I cannot pretend to know what it was like to live her life, to get snatched she had a relatively famous mother, to get snatched out of relative obscurity as a 15-year-old teenager, to be she won the Golden Globe for Best New Actress in that year, 68, which, to get thrust into the spotlight. The two of these kids, they were children, were thrust into unimaginable fame. And, she got heavy into drugs, and that was her lifestyle for a while. And, her career, she had a couple of things that made her a little bit of money, but nothing really ever took off. She did that, she did Jesus of Nazareth miniseries with Zeffirelli, who directed Romeo and Juliet. She did Black Christmas, which was arguably the first slasher movie. She did some bit voice work on some Star Wars video games and some and she did a Superman cartoon voice for Talia al Ghul, and she did a random appearance on Boy Meets World in '97, I think. And a couple of random things, but she never really. And if you're
looking for Prince from all of these types of roles.
And so getting to what the point of this was, so then, one of the things while Olivia was signing the stuff, when I got to talking, when she was in a good mood, she goes, "Are you going to sell all this stuff? Are you going to sell all this stuff?" She kept saying it. I'm like, "Wait, of course I'm going to sell it, And she's like, "Well, this will be worth a lot of money when I'm gone. I don't plan on living much longer. This is gonna be worth a lot when I'm gone. I bet you can get upwards of $400 each for when I'm gone." And she kept talking about selling this when she died. And I know people aren't going to believe it, but that's what happened in that room when she was talking about it. And what's funny about it is, the minute that I saw that she died, and it came up on Instagram. Because I was following her. One of the things she had promised was to do a promo for the appearance on Instagram, but she never did. So I was following her on Instagram. And so they announced on Instagram that she passed this week. And I texted Dana immediately. Code red.
And mind you, I had just had 2 wisdom teeth pulled 3 hours earlier. So I'm sitting on the couch, my mouth is swollen still. I'm just this numb, staring off into nothing. And then I got to start running to the office to dig through all of our Romeo and Juliet stuff.
I wanted to make sure everything was counted, everything was priced, everything was listed. I wanted everything available the moment of her death.
Because, oh no! Did we capitalize on her death and make some money?
I mean, of course we did, and that was the plan.
Olivia knew the plan, but
Olivia knew the plan. What's crazy is why did anyone think I would guarantee Olivia a $20,000 appearance fee? Why did anyone think I did that? I didn't do that out of charity. I did it because I knew that I was going to take the stuff, and sure, we would sell it in dribs and drabs before, but the bulk we would be able to sell after she died, because I knew that once she died, no one else was going to have the stuff that we have. And it's true. If you look at our stuff, it is the only high quality stuff on the market. The rest, none exists. There's a lot of crap. There's a lot of junk. There's a lot of old through the mail stuff, or old index cards that she signed, or bad headshots, or weird stuff. But the nice stuff, the attractive looking prints, the dual signed stuff from Romeo and Juliet, you can only get that from us. Only. and it's priced accordingly. And I firmly believe that was the calculation. I don't want to hang out with old ladies like Olivia Hussey and Barbara Bain for fun. They were lovely people, and they were interesting to talk to ultimately. And it was interesting to talk to Olivia once I warmed her up, and it was super interesting to talk to Barbara Bain. It was fine. It was interesting, but it's a business.
Yeah.
And just like I guarantee Paramount is going to put out some edition of Romeo and Juliet or some kind of thing, or whatever other credits she has, or Black Christmas, they're going to do something with her, because that's what they do when they own your likeness. We own these prints, and we're going to sell them, and that's what we did, and we're listing them now. And what's funny is that we were met with the same impoverished whiners who complain that the things get listed, but they were never going to buy it anyway.
Yep, it's always the people that have never bought from you. And I want to just throw a couple little anecdotes out about that. We raised the prices on very little. We priced this stuff high when she was alive and well, because we knew that we had, as you said, that the market was filled with low-quality junk. We had high-quality, dual-signed prints, certified, that looked amazing. So we always had them high. It wasn't like, oh, they were $50 yesterday and now they're $400 today. No, we always had them high. I had one person on eBay, which I don't usually poke fun at, like, customers. Actually, I always poke fun at customers, but not often.
What are you talking about?
Not often publicly, but I'm going to do it publicly now, because they tried to use the private signing prices to, like, poke, like, holes in our pricing. Not real. I don't think they realized it was our private signing. And I said, I'm like,
realize.
Yeah, they're like, she charged this much for the private signing, and I'm like, we charged that much for the private signing. And 3 weeks after that private signing, we were charging 5 times what we were charging for the pre-order.
Of course, if you wanted to, and this is what I understand, when we were advertising for the private signing, it was very clear. We said straight up, these prices will not be the same after the signing is over.
No,
but this is priced now to recoup our investment in advance. You are taking advantage in a private signing of the uncertainty of the market. Now the market is certain. The supply is finite. She is dead. The supply is finite. You're never going to get any more. We have the last remaining dual-signed prints. And we'll take it a step further, because I know what they were selling at the table, right? I saw the prints at the table. Prints at the table do not compare to what we have.
No.
They just don't.
I did not know who she was when I started working on these pictures, beyond, like, obviously Romeo and Juliet. But we have really, really amazing photos. And that's the deal. When you pre-order, we get to take care of our loyal day one customers who are supporting us from the start. And that's not charity on our ends. That's like a crowdfunding sort of thing, where you're helping us recoup our investment. You win, we win. That's the point. If you miss that window and you want to say, well, it shouldn't be that much more than it was at that point, well, too bad. You missed that window. Next time you have an opportunity like that, pre-order.
So when one of the WWE ID talents blows up, and you come at me or Dana in a year or two and say, well, there was only $25 for the private signing, it's like, yeah, of course it was, because there was a risk involved. That's the point. So, yeah. Anyway, the bottom line is we still have a lot of Olivia stuff. We will have a lot of Olivia. We got a lot signed. We have a lot.
We sold a lot when the lawsuit broke, which was, at first, we were kind of like freaking out when that lawsuit hit. Is this going to kill us? Is this going to help us? We made several $1,000 with that lawsuit.
The lawsuit hitting actually brought us to even, if you remember.
It did. Yeah, that carried us over the threshold, and now we're doing, okay now, and we've done okay in dribs and drabs.
And we were talking about this again. We both agreed the prices are not coming down, Olivia. I will take Olivia's to the grave, because just on principle, on spite, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. The prices are not coming down. They are what they are. If you want garbage, pay for garbage. It's funny. I saw on eBay there was something that a personalized, poor quality 8x10 signed through the mail went for like $200 and something on eBay. So whatever.
And what I was thinking, just on a positive note, while we're like Scrooge McDuck right now, jumping through our vault filled with Romeo and Juliet prints. Think about the people that pre-ordered that for it was like $70 for a flat, $20 for an inscription, I think. they have, like, I was looking at the pictures and like, holy crap, those look amazing. And they paid under $100 or about 100 and something with shipping. And they have these sick sick inscribed prints that we don't even have prints inscribed like that. So those few customers out there that got really to the nines inscribed, like there, if you know, that is a market value right there, that the pre-order really helped out.
I was thinking the one guy had the original Black Christmas poster that he had her sign with a quote. And I mean, that thing's worth thousands now. Yeah. So that was probably worth thousands before we even brought it in. No, but it's, you know, so it's one of those things where if an opportunity presents itself with that, you know, is going to be limited in nature, you have to use your head and say, if you do it, awesome. If you don't do it, then you can't bellyache after the fact. That's the bottom line. But I don't want to put a damper on the whole experience because, truthfully, to sum it all up, when it comes to talking about the Olivia experience, it definitely took years off my life. That Wednesday, Thursday leading up was one of the most stressful things I've ever experienced. Waiting to see them, whether they got on the airplane, then showing up Thursday and not getting the signing done. Those were things that, in a way, and I don't know if you agree with me on this, I'm kind of glad they happened.
Yeah,
because the Tom Kenny signing that we did was so easy comparatively. We walked in. Tom was delightful. He was doing SpongeBob voices. He
helped us carry the items.
He helped us carry crates. He added his own inscriptions without our asking. He was a gem. And I'm afraid, what would have happened if we had gone through our experiences only having dealt with Tom and not having dealt with Olivia. And, dealing with an Olivia it is crazy that our basically our second big signing was for so much money. It was probably ill-advised, and we were not experienced enough to do that.
We had no business doing that. It was complete like trial and education by fire. I realized that point was driven home the night Olivia's passing was announced, and I was going through my phone to find pictures for the graphic and for the TikTok video, and I was seeing how many big and small things we've done that came well past that. It was like, holy crap, like we were like complete like infants almost as far as this degree and magnitude of a deal. And now the stuff we do on a daily basis is like, well, we're not in 20 grand, so what's the big deal?
Right. And honestly, even the political aspects of it, like, only now do I realize that, like, I circumvented and like stepped on Bob's toes by even doing this signing, because Tony let that happen without telling me that Bob was the one who, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't even know that was happening. I didn't even, like, a lot of these things now I know that if someone is in Chiller, that they have a handler through Chiller, that you're supposed to go through that person, that there's etiquette that we learned along the way. And to be honest, Bob has been incredibly gracious since then, really never making a deal about that. I mean, also we've helped him out too, so I guess it kind of evens out. But it's one of those things where it's like, I understand now. I got an education. I didn't know, and unfortunately, I didn't know because Tony was not giving the full story. Tony would tell you what you wanted to hear, and Tony was a great salesman. And ultimately, I realized Tony's goal was to get Leonard and Lynn to the United States to see their grandkids, because he thought, I think, that that Leonard wasn't going to have too many more opportunities in his life to fly. Leonard, he has a hard time getting around, and so that's what I think was the motivation there. And that the Olivia stuff was just secondary. The Olivia stuff was just a way of getting Leonard there, because he knew, and everyone knew, that no one would book Leonard without Olivia. Olivia was the star, and then we had to jump through hoops and really kiss butt to get Olivia over here, and we did. I'm not sure how at the end of the day. I guess at the end of the day, it was just money. It really was just money. But and
the thing was, which we've talked about since that day, like, obviously in terms of like a pound for pound price, we overpaid for Leonard. But I mean, given that we needed the dual sign pieces, it needed to happen. And given what a lovely human being Leonard was, honestly, it didn't feel. I was happy to, if there was anyone you wanted to overpay, it would be Leonard, because he was a great human.
Yeah, and truthfully, at the end of the day, it was all worked out. Everything worked out. Everything was fine. And and we gain incredible, valuable experience. We can show our photos, and I can show the product. I have personal signed stuff from those two that will be in my collection. It's not really for sale. That is unique. I have in my classroom. I have framed items from the signing, and also like photos and things. It was a pretty special signing for me. It was a pretty special thing to have happened for me. And I know that at the end of the day, I make fun of those people who want to sit and hang out. I wanted to be clear. I did not enjoy working Chiller for that weekend, and I would really sooner never do it again if I could help it.
Zoom in on our show graphic, and you will see how much he enjoyed it. Zoom in on Sean's face.
There's a lot. Dana has
corner.
Dana actually has lots of photos of me. I didn't even know these were happening. Lots of photos of me being miserable with horrible expressions on my face the whole weekend. It's hard to express how stressful, how upsetting it was, because I felt like every time I extended myself and did a good deed for these people, they responded with scorn and hostility. It's like you couldn't win them over. Even when I thought I had won her over, it was just this constant sort of air of difficulty. And each night getting into the room, counting money with David was not happy with they made tremendous money. They brought home over $20,000 cash, non-reportable to the government, over $20,000 cash for a weekend. Okay?
If anyone left that show with a smile on their face, it should have been David and Olivia. Not you, not Tony, not Bob, not anyone really. And he looked the way he looked. You would think that you kicked his grandmother down the stairs.
Miserable, absolutely miserable the whole time until the very end. He did, and I am a little ashamed, but not enough. I don't know if people know this. So David Isley, his claim to fame, incidentally, I mean, he was in like a 70s kind of rock band, but his thing that he did was he wrote the Sweet Victory song for SpongeBob, which is pretty neat because that's the episode of SpongeBob that people point to very frequently as like their favorite episode. It's like one of the noteworthy ones. And so when I had gotten the SpongeBob Funko, the Sweet Victory Funko signed by Tom Kenny, I got David Isley to sign the side of that Funko window as well. He did not charge me. He actually was very amused to do it. And I said, David, you should have a stack of these at your table, and you should be selling them. Of course, we didn't get to see any of the money that David made at his table. That was not that. That was I thought that would be contributing to the pool. It was not. So in addition to the
Jerry's money for India.
No, India ended up collecting close to $1,000. Doing little. She came down on Saturday or Sunday.
Sunday.
She came down Sunday. She briefly was down there, but she, had a little bit of a line. I felt bad because Bob had a banner made up for her and everything. Just overall, it speaks to a time, I think, when celebrities really thought that they were better than and different from the rest of us. And they really clearly lived a life of kind of isolation and entitlement in ways that I don't even pretend to try to understand. I started talking a little bit before about how, what kind of life Olivia had. And, normal people, for lack of a better word, can't even really fathom or articulate what noteworthy people have to go through in terms of being under a microscope and never being able to escape from the public eye. And if that happens to you as a little kid, I mean, we see the sheer number of child actors who have turned up dead or severely messed up, And so like the fact that she made it through and was only reasonably quirky, I guess, is a testament to her in some way.
Yeah. It's one of those things. It's I think the average person will hear like the complaints of fame and be like, "Oh, what a rough life you have. People love you. You're filthy rich. You can go wherever you want to go and travel and do all these things." But I mean, as a child, it's not easy. You're giving up stuff that you don't even understand that you're giving it up. No one's necessarily asking you if you want to give it up. It just happens. And the fact that she passed away at 73 and not, at the younger age of a lot of child stars is a great thing. And yeah, as much as we can only judge our experiences with her, we can't judge her life overall.
Yeah, and then the experience was that that she was a pain, that she was a handful, that what could have very easily been an enjoyable experience turned out to be less than so, just because of entitlement, really.
Yeah, there was no reason for the angst. There was no reason for the difficulty. Like the way Leonard did it. Not that I was there to see it, but the way he did it, just sit down, do your business. At the end of the day, no one was trying to rip anyone off. There was no reason. Everyone should have walked into that room every night counting money with a smile. It should have been a pleasant experience, top to bottom. And certain people, Olivia and David made it not so pleasant. But at the end of the day, this is business, not friendship.
Right, that's true. But it also means that we can give an accurate accounting of the event. So. Anything else to say about Olivia or Leonard or our dealings with Chiller or anything?
It was honestly a great experience seeing Chiller from Sunset Friday to like Sunset Sunday. I'm not quite sure I'd ever want to do it again, but like just seeing the ebbs and the flows and traffic in the rooms, and it was invaluable, I felt. I'm glad we were there to experience it, but I'm not clamoring to try to bring some other 60s or 70s child stars to Chiller.
Oh, funny coda to this. I forgot to mention it before. One of the reasons that David said that they didn't do the signing Thursday night, they were so tired and mad because he said the quality of the flight was low. And I'm like, it's a first class flight. Like, what do you want? Well, he didn't think that the plane lived up to what he expected the amenities to be. This is the level we're dealing with here.
Honestly, though, you were a real you should have flown his route a few weeks prior to make sure it was up to their standards.
Clearly.
At least, next time do better.
I will try. You know what? Well, there'll be no next time, right? And it's funny because, that imagine having an amenity. Like, I can only think, like, when I've gone on, I've had kind of lousy flights before. I've had lousy hotels before. It would never occur to me to let that just kind of poison my entire experience, whatever it was. It would never occur to me to do that. I mean, it's like you're flying from LA to New York. It's 5 hours, maybe 6, depending on the flight path. I mean, you were in first class. You're not in the bucket seats where so your knees are to your chin. So what? So maybe there's a baby crying, or maybe the seat didn't lay down flat. I don't even know what the complaint was because he couldn't even articulate. He says it was the worst flight he's ever been on. I'm like, oh, okay. He also didn't like the quality of the hotel room. I'm like, that's the Chiller Hotel. Everyone stays in the same place.
Honestly, I'm of the belief it was just grasping at straws. I don't think he was going to come ready to do business in a friendly way regardless. You could have had Aladdin's magic carpet take them from LA to Newark. I don't think it would have mattered. I think he was going to come in hot and angry, and I think that was just the disposition and the position of power that they want to try to exert.
Right. He was higher than me. He was better than me, and he wanted me to know it. And that's fine. At the end of the day, it is what it is. I get to tell this story. I lied about nothing. It's all true. And people can think what they want to think about it. It is what it is. This is the true story of what it's like dealing with a celebrity with a downside guarantee of $20,000.
And let me just say, as it's a little ribbon on all the complaints that we've discussed over the episodes of selling autographs after someone dies, I am reasonably certain that our listings and eBay posts and different things are in no way inflicting any sort of grief on the family that they're not feeling from the death itself. I'm confident in that fact. So when people, since we actually know these people a little bit, like, that just always makes me laugh.
Or I can say with absolute certainty, they knew that we were there profiting off of their name. That was the point of it. Otherwise, I wasn't going to. They want people to give them money just out of love. And that's something you touched on it a little. There were people there who were like her followers from Instagram who were, so she like, I guess she talks to people on social media, and they were like hovering around the table all weekend to try and constantly go up and talk to her and cut people in line. There were a few people where it's like, dude, get out of here. You're done.
Yeah.
You got to, and they were, a few people were kind of, they viewed themselves as her friends. It was really just your typical kind of sick parasocial interaction. But
and piggybacking off of that, you had all of that going on. But then remember that one guy that came up to the table with legit like 15 original posters, and you had a lot of people in the people in line were complaining like crazy, and it's like that guy just dropped $1,200. You know, if he wants to take his time and not mess up his posters, by all means. It's the person that
there was one customer. There was one customer who dropped $1,200. Yep.
Yeah. So take your time. And yes, if you spend $1,200 at a table we have any even adjacent involvement with, you get extra time because you're paying $1,200. Time is money.
There were people who were complaining that because they only got a photo op, or it's funny working in that world and dealing with people's customer service complaints. And you're like, I thought that for the money, Leonard and Olivia provided an outstanding customer service experience and fan experience for everyone. I think that's behind the curtain. Again, we've spent the last 90 minutes talking about it. In front of the fans, they were as good as you could possibly get. Both of them.
It's like Joe Hendry. The exact same thing with Joe Hendry. Prickly and difficult for the people working with him, but everyone that comes up to the table to meet him, great experience. That's the exact same way.
So, but again, I hope that this was able to provide a little bit of a behind the curtain look at what it was like to do a signing like that, and some of the stuff you have to deal with, with when you're dealing with people who have egos that are very hard for average people to comprehend. I definitely didn't get it, which it kind of makes me tip my hat to someone like Tony, who's able to. He's obviously not someone from that world, but who's able to navigate that world by really understanding these people's egos and learning how to work within that system. So bravo to Tony. I would never work with you again, but I respect you if you're out there, and I'm pretty sure you'll listen to this. So it's one of those things. I would never work with him, but I respect him and I understand how he does what he does, and I'm glad to have met him and glad to have learned from him. So if you like what you hear, if you want more stories like this, please subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcast. You can leave us a rating on Apple Podcast or Spotify. You can leave us a review on Apple Podcast, or you can leave us comments or thumbs up or thumbs down on YouTube. All engagement helps us out. So we don't really have many signings coming up. We do have a couple of personal events that we're going to. Why don't you, in the coming months, why don't you talk about them?
Listen, there's no better way to celebrate the day after Valentine's Day than getting to see Bill Murray and his blood brothers. So on February 15th, we will be at Sony Hall in New York City, hoping we can get the hell out of that show before Bill Murray gets on stage and sings.
That's the plan. Get there for the meet and greet and get out before a single note is performed.
Yes, and even before that, on January 11th, we're going to be in picturesque Patchogue, New York, on Long Island, with The Sopranos, Michael Imperioli, Steve Sciarippa, and Vincent Pastore. I won't say his nickname because you'd have to edit it.
I don't want to beep anything.
Exactly, but that's going to be a good time. Well, I mean, you'll probably be snoring and miserable, but it'll be a good time for most people.
No, because it's not going to be dark because it's a conversation. If the house lights are on, then I'll stay awake.
You snored at Steel City once in the middle of a Q&A with the house lights very much on. So I'm not so sure that'll.
What Q&A was it? To be fair,
I don't think I was even paying attention, but we sat down just for a few moments. It was before the whole Christmas vacation photo, and I have a selfie. I might actually put that in. I gotta put that in one of our show graphics. I have a selfie of you just sleeping in the chair, like slouched over, and I'm just sitting next to you.
Something that is true about me, I can fall asleep anywhere, anytime, without hesitation. I can just close my eyes, lean over, and fall asleep. Doesn't matter where I am. I have no problem falling asleep. So anyway, not that anyone cares. So if you're shopping for autographs, check out www.markedoutcollectibles.com or our eBay store at Marked Out Collectibles. To contact us for any reason, please email markedoutcollectibles@gmail.com or join the Marked Out Collectibles official marketplace on Facebook. And we do have some more private signings coming up. These are the WWE ID signings as well as some of the other independent talents. So we added Brad Baylor. We still don't have a date on Brad Baylor, right?
No, I'm going to reach out after New Year's again and hammer that down.
Brad Baylor is going to be big. If you don't jump on Brad Baylor now, you're a fool. Okay, he's going to be big. I've seen some videos he's done. He's going to be big. You could just he has the energy. So Brad Baylor's coming up. Hundos. He's he's going to get called up, and when he's on the main roster, I'm going to laugh. We also have. Then on January 24th, these are due. We have Zeta Steele, Jackson Drake, Marcus Mathers at the PWJ show. We're going to be running our privates with them there. All items and orders are due January 24th. Again, Zeta Steele looks great. Jackson Drake is another one. I guarantee he gets called up. I bet money on it that Jackson Drake gets called up.
And Marcus Mathers. I don't think anyone on this list has more clout right now on the independent circuit than Marcus Mathers. Every single person on that list, and the ones we've worked with before. And let me just throw out there, those promo shots look incredible. It's not too late to start your collection. We have a couple left from Aaron Rourke and Bryce Donovan. Order those today. Start that collection, because guess what? Just like Olivia Hussey,
these guys are in their 20s. Come on,
yeah. We're not killing them. But today's price. Don't come to me on eBay in a couple of years and say, well, you guys were charging this much. I will laugh, and I will make fun of you on the podcast.
Bryce Donovan will hit the main roster within 2 years. You can quote me on it, okay? I was in this guy's presence. He was at my table. He's a huge guy. He has it. It's very clear he has it. He's going to make the main roster. Not even a question. Okay, we also have a couple of people who we think are future ID talents. So you want to grab pre-orders from them as well. Charles Mason, Brittany Brooks, Emily J. Everything due January 24th. Get the orders in.
And Charles Mason does not do signings. He very, very rarely does anything. But luckily, he has a great relationship with PWJ, and we were able to work this out. This guy is going to make it. He's very much in like an MJF type of theme where he lives the gimmick, or that is his personality. Who the hell knows? And he's a little crazy, a little eccentric, and that's what makes him awesome. So don't miss out.
So I think that just about does it for us. Any last words?
What the hell are we going to hype now? We can't even tease Olivia anymore.
I know. Listen, all the complaining and all the in the years that it took off my life, I still am absolutely thrilled that I had the opportunity to put that signing together. I learned professionally. I learned so much from it. Personally, I grew so much from it. It was still a thrill of a lifetime to work with someone I consider an icon like Olivia Hussey. I know personally she put a bad taste in my mouth, but in terms of being able to work with someone like that and it's such a cool thing to be able to say we were the ones that put that together. That somehow like that Olivia Leonard reunion, that signing at Chiller would not have happened unless we put in the legwork to make it happen and the money to make it happen. So it's one of those things I will forever be proud of. Rest in peace, Olivia.
Yes,
you were annoying, but you were an absolute legend. One of the most beautiful women to ever live. I don't think that even goes without saying. And we're very, very grateful for that opportunity.
Absolutely right.
So for markedout.com, Marked Out Collectibles, and Marked Out Radio, I'm Sean.
And I'm Dana.
And we will see you again in the new year.